You've been told the pyramids were built by slaves, dragging stones up ramps. But the math behind those stones makes that story physically impossibly in. What replaced it is far more unsettling. Right now, across deserts and jungles, massive stone structures stand that we can't recreate with modern cranes, and hidden inside their dimensions are mathematical codes so precise they suggest these ancient builders knew things about physics, astronomy, and engineering that we're only rediscovering today. The Great Pyramid of Giza wasn't just a tomb, it's a machine encoded with the exact circumference of Earth, the speed of light in meters per second, and the golden ratio appearing in over a dozen measurements. You've probably heard that ancient Egyptians used basic copper tools and wooden sledges, but here's what they don't tell you. The granite blocks in the king's chamber weigh up to 80 tons, each quarried from Aswan 500 miles away, fitted together so tightly that you can't slide a credit card between them. Modern diamond-tipped saws struggle to achieve that precision, yet somehow workers with Bronze Age technology accomplished it thousands of times over. The ramp theory completely falls apart when you run the numbers. To build a ramp steep enough to reach the pyramid's peak, you'd need more material than the pyramid itself. And the labor required to construct and then dismantle that ramp exceeds the labor needed for the pyramid by a factor of 3. Engineers have tried to prove this theory for decades, and every single attempt ends in failure or requires inventing fictional construction methods with zero archaeological evidence. Here's where it gets disturbing. When you map the 3 pyramids at Giza from above, they align perfectly with the 3 stars in Orion's belt, matching their relative sizes and even the slight offset of the smallest pyramid. That's not interpretation, that's observable geometry. The odds of this being coincidence are so astronomically low that every serious archaeologist has had to develop explanations that sound increasingly desperate. Then there's the speed of light problem. The exact coordinates of the Great Pyramid in decimal degrees, 29.9792458 n, match the speed of light in a vacuum, 299,792,458 meters per second. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you start stacking these mathematical alignments one after another, the pi ratio in its height to base the positioning that marks the exact center of Earth's landmass, the internal chambers that create acoustic resonance at frequencies that match human brainwaves, you're not looking at accidents anymore. You're looking at encoded knowledge. The Antikythera mechanism, that ancient Greek device found in a shipwreck, remained an unexplained artifact for a century until its X-ray analysis revealed it was a sophisticated astronomical calculator with gear ratios that wouldn't be matched until Swiss watchmaking in the 1800s. It computed lunar phases, eclipse predictions, and planetary positions using differential gearing technology. How did Bronze Age craftsmen build something more complex than anything that would exist for the next 2,000 years? This is the part historians rarely mention. At Puma Punku in Bolivia, you'll find andesite blocks weighing over 100 tons, carved with such precision that their surfaces are flat to within a few thousandths of an inch modern machining tolerances. These aren't soft limestone blocks like in Egypt. Andesite is one of the hardest stones on Earth, nearly impossible to work with, even using carbide-tipped tools. The blocks interlock using complex mortise and tenon joints that would require computer-aided design to plan. And they show evidence of being cut with rotating tools that create perfectly smooth curves and right angles. Traditional archaeology claims these were shaped using harder stones as hammers and abrasives. But materials engineers have tested this method extensively, and it simply doesn't work at this scale or precision. You'd need diamond-tipped industrial saws rotating at high speeds, and even then you'd leave tool marks that these stones don't have. The ancient builders left behind H-shaped cuts and internal angles that can only be created with advanced milling equipment, yet we're supposed to believe they accomplished this by hand while living in a civilization that had uninvented the wheel. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Meanwhile, The Roman aqueducts that still carry water across Europe today were built using a concrete formula that we lost for over a millennium. Concrete that's actually stronger now than when it was poured 2,000 years ago. Modern concrete crumbles in seawater within decades, but Roman harbor concrete chemically bonds with seawater over time, growing more resilient through a crystallization process we only decoded in 2017. They used volcanic ash and lime in exact proportions that create aluminum tobermorite crystals, something we still can't reliably reproduce at scale. But the real shock came when researchers started finding the same mathematical constants appearing across disconnected ancient cultures. The golden ratio, phi, shows up in the Parthenon, the pyramids of Giza, Angkor Wat, and Mayan temples at Chichen Itza, civilizations separated by oceans and thousands of years, yet all encoding 1.618 into their most sacred structures. This ratio appears in nature constantly, in spiral galaxies, hurricane formations, nautilus shells, and human DNA proportions, which suggests these builders understood fundamental patterns that govern biological and physical systems. The Mayan calendar system calculated the solar year to 365.2420 days, and modern astronomy has confirmed the actual length as 365.2422 days. They were off by 17 seconds using naked eye observations and mathematical models. They tracked Venus cycles so accurately that their predictions remain valid for thousands of years, requiring them to observe and record astronomical data across multiple generations with zero room for error. The Dresden Codex contains eclipse prediction tables that work forward and backward in time for centuries. These weren't primitive people scratching patterns in the dirt. They were sophisticated mathematicians running calculations that required understanding of planetary motion, trigonometry, and base 20 number systems that included the concept of zero-something Europe wouldn't adopt until the Middle Ages. This changes everything we thought we knew. The standard historical narrative insists that human civilization progressed linearly from simple to complex, that ancient peoples were less intelligent and less capable, that modern humans represent the peak of human achievement. But the evidence carved in stone across every continent tells a different story. The precision of ancient megalithic construction often exceeds what we can achieve today, and the mathematical knowledge embedded in these structures suggests they understood principles of physics and astronomy that weren't discovered by modern science until centuries later. Either there was a sophisticated global civilization during prehistory that we've completely missed in the archaeological record, or independent cultures around the world simultaneously developed advanced mathematical and engineering knowledge that was later lost during collapse. Events then slowly rediscovered over millennia. Neither option fits the timeline taught in textbooks. The Göbekli Tepe site in Turkey pushed back the date of monumental architecture by 6,000 years, forcing a complete rewrite of Neolithic history. And it raises an uncomfortable question. What else did these ancient builders create that's still buried, undiscovered, or dismissed as natural formations because it's too sophisticated to be ancient? The definitive truth isn't that aliens built these structures or that Atlantis existed, that we've massively underestimated the intellectual capabilities of ancient humans. They weren't primitive, they were brilliant. They observed, calculated, and encoded mathematical principles into stone monuments designed to last forever, preserving knowledge across cataclysms and dark ages. The impossible pyramids and forgotten aqueducts aren't impossible at all. They're evidence that human ingenuity doesn't require computers or modern technology, just requires curiosity, collaboration, and time. The shocking hidden codes embedded in these structures aren't mystical secrets. They're mathematical truths about the universe itself. Truths that ancient builders understood through careful observation and that we're only now learning to read. We didn't evolve from ignorance to enlightenment in a straight line. We've been brilliant and curious from the beginning, And these monuments are proof that some knowledge once gained can be passed down across centuries in stone and geometry, waiting for future generations to recognize what's been hidden in plain sight all along. So what myth should we break down next?